Hello and welcome to News Central Television. I'm Darshan Usman. The top stories this hour. Senate approves President Tinubu's external borrowing plan of over $21 billion for 2025-2026 fiscal cycle. APC to pick Ganduje's successor at Make or Break NEC meeting to hold on Thursday. Away from Nigeria, Gambia detects single confirmed case of monkeypox, marking its first known infection. Details shortly. We begin with politics, where the ruling All Progressives Congress is set to hold a pivotal National Executive Committee meeting on Thursday, July 24th in Abuja to select a new national chairman following Abdullahi Ganduje's resignation for health reasons in June. Now, Ganduje's exit is widely viewed as influenced by internal power struggles ahead of the 2027 elections. Deputy National Chairman Ali Dalori currently serves as acting chairman, with many party leaders supporting him to remain until a formal convention. Key contenders for the chairmanship include former Nasarawa Governor Tanko Al-Makura and Minister Nentawe Yilwatda, backed by the North Central region seeking to reclaim the position. The NEC will also review constitutional changes and party congresses, with final decisions expected to align with President Bola Tinubu's preferences. Well, let's also tell you that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has brushed off comments from the African Democratic Congress, the ADC, criticizing the delayed appointments of ambassadors at Nigerian missions abroad. Now, in a statement on Sunday, Bolaji Abdullahi, ADC Interim National Publicity Secretary, said President Bola Tinubu's refusal to appoint ambassadors has affected the quality of engagement and relationships with the host countries of Nigerian missions. Abdullahi cited the visa policy updates from the United States and the United Arab Emirates as proof of deteriorating relations owing to the absence of ambassadors. Now, but in a statement on Tuesday, Al-Qasim Abdulkader, Special Assistant on Media and Communication Strategy to Yusuf Tugar, Minister of Foreign Affairs, said that the ADC's criticisms were baseless and politicized. Now let's head to Edo State, where Governor Monday Okpebholo has reiterated his demand that Peter Obi, former presidential candidate of Labour Party, notify him before visiting the state. Okpebholo insisted that his comment is a security measure and not a threat to the former governor of Anambra State. Meanwhile, Okpebholo's comment has drawn widespread criticism, with many accusing him of attempting to intimidate political opponents. However, speaking at the unveiling of Edo Line buses in Benin City, the state capital, on Tuesday, Okpebholo said it is his responsibility to protect both residents and visitors. In the same vein, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar is raising the alarm over what he describes as growing threats to opposition figures in Nigeria. He says any threat to Peter Obi is a threat to all opposition voices. Atiku's comments follow a controversy over Obi's recent visit to Edo State. Governor Monday Okpebholo insists that Obi must obtain security clearance before any future visits, citing security concerns after a violent incident following Obi's July 7th appearance in Benin. Okpebholo questioned Obi's 15 million naira donation to a local school, claiming to coincide with unrest. Now, FCT Minister Nyesom Wike backed the governor, saying prominent figures must alert state governments when visiting to ensure safety. Atiku, however, maintained such conditions undermine democracy and political freedom. Away from that, stakeholders from the civil society, academia, and grassroots are calling on architects, housing rights advocates, and developers to propose innovative, practical solutions to convert Lagos's neglected public spaces into safe, inclusive, and affordable housing. As Lagos faces growing pressures of urbanization and housing demand, this conversation offers a timely and critical space for dialogue, innovation, and action. Now, to further discuss this, I'm joined by Deji Akinelu, environmental advocate. Thank you so much for joining us in the studio, Deji.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. Now, can you speak to us on the risks and rewards, of transforming abandoned public spaces into housing projects in densely populated cities like Lagos?
Oh, yeah. I think the conversation around converting abandoned public buildings into low-income housing residents come with a whole lot of benefits. Considering the fact that we have a large population of low-income groups that are struggling with challenges of finding affordable housing within the city. Urbanization, as we know it, increased the activities within every city. And for instance, you find people traveling long distances to work, etc. But using a former federal secretariat Ikoyi as an example, converting such into low-income housing for the urban poor provides them the opportunity to probably to be more closer to where they work. So take, for instance, drivers, artisans, providing the necessary services to the community that they find themselves, like the Ikoyi community. So it reduces travel time, for instance. You know about the plight of some low-income groups of maybe people who are drivers who have to travel several miles from outside Lagos down to VI to... so it's that urban tension that you have is one of the opportunities that you begin to receive from here. It also comes with the opportunity of being able to implement sustainable environmental practices. Take, for instance, greenhouse farming can go on in that space and begin to do farm to table. From that same space that you are seeing, facilities can be developed and put in place to begin to practice greenhouse farming and do farm to table to the neighborhood. So people can walk into such a facility. There are days, there are times that local trading can be done of foodstuff, materials, etc. can be done and begin to service the community around it. Part of meeting up with that environmental challenge is us thinking in a very sustainable manner.
All right, now speaking of the challenge, now you talked about, Ikoyi, but how do how can sustainable design principles like these, be integrated into low-cost housing solutions?
Yeah, very easy, very, very easy, and very, the ideas in terms of, take for instance, rainwater harvesting, that is the practice of saving water. Low-income housing design conveniently would accommodate this. So in a situation whereby within the structure is already designed in such a way to harvest rainwater for use. For low-income housing design, this is something that is easily adoptable by the users. We're talking about, even still looking at that same structure, ventilation. It can be designed in such a way that easy ventilation, cross ventilation can happen within the apartment, reducing the use of things like AC and all of that. Even again, back to farming practices. These are things that are so easily integratable that low-income households are already put into use. Take, for instance, shared facilities. It is only the big guys who don't want to use shared facilities. But shared facilities will maximize the use of space. So common kitchen facilities being used by this group of people. So this is, we trying to think outside the box when we talk about housing provision for low-income groups, or as against what we have in the present day public housing projects that we see, maybe like lag homes in terms of design. Those designs don't put into cognizance all of these things that low-income groups can really catch up on.
All right, now speaking of that, how can Lagos strike a balance between some of these luxury housing development and also urgent housing needs for these low-income groups?
Yeah. So luxury housing is not a competition. Luxury housing and low-income housing shouldn't be in competition. They should be complementary. So where you have your luxury housing existing, it is also good for you to have low-income housing or middle-income housing also coexist in the same vicinity, because it's an exchange. You understand? So we have to have that balance. The only problem we have now is that every billboard that you see in the city advertising is called affordable luxury, affordable luxury, affordable luxury. So who is going to build for the urban poor? Or are you saying that there's no need for us to create access to this group of people, as if we're not going to need their services, or as if there's nothing they have to contribute to the city? We have to find that balance, and we have to find a way to support each other. So take, for instance, I tell people that I don't have a problem with somebody buying land in Eco Atlantic, but what initiative is the government taking to taking funds from a house purchased from Eco Atlantic to fund social housing or low-income housing? So it's a cross-funding thing. So if you take a certain percentage of whatever somebody is paying, 0.1%, and you do a luxury property tax to finance social housing, to put up that same structure into place for low-income groups to be able to work and live there. So we need to begin to think critically also for the low-income groups, and how we can put in the necessary financing to make that happen.
Well, thank you so much, Deji, for your time and for speaking on this.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And with that, we'll take a break now. When we come back, we'll tell you that the federal government warns of severe flooding in 27 states and the FCT. Stay with us. Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us. Now to legislative activities at the House of Representatives, which have actually resumed, with lawmakers preparing to commence debate on critical legislations and possible passage of others. Our correspondent, Idong Joseph, is on standby at the National Assembly to bring us an update of activities at the House of Representatives. Hello, Idong. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, and good afternoon, Dashan.
Good afternoon, Idong. Idong, tell us, what is the situation like at the House, and has activities for the day started already?
Well, the environment here is quite calm. Starting from the morning, it has been drizzling all day, and though activities here have already started, starting with the House of Representatives Committee on Petroleum Resources Downstream, where they held a stakeholders meeting within members of the committee, discussing the challenges conduct their oversight within this period that they still have. And also they also discussed things like looking at the regulation of the sectors and the sector itself, and the available legislations, and looking at possible amendments to them, because they raised issues of some stakeholders complaining about the bottlenecks hindering the progress of the sector. And before I came out to give this update, the plenary session just started with the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Abbas Tajuddin, presiding over the session. First, it started with a letter from the federal government, where the federal government is demanding an extension, an amendment to the 2025-2026 external borrowing plan, saying that some projects were omitted from that, the first letter sent to the Assembly some months ago, and so they want it to be amended so that those projects can also be included in this new borrowing plan, if passed and sent to the President for approval.
Okay. Now, Idong, but do you have a likely idea on what debates or discussions, other ones that would be happening today?
Well, activities at the National Assembly here, just like the agenda for the date normally comes out, it's normally made public when the plenary session starts. And as at the time I came out, there was no available details for that. I don't know if that is out for now. And though, having known that, what we know is that some of the discussions we expect to see is introduction of new bills, which is the first reading of any bill, and then debate on some bills that need debate. Just some doesn't need debate the way the House runs its activities. Yeah, like establishment bill, they don't need debate. Those during second reading they pass it, and those that need debate during the second reading, we expect that some of those bills are going to be debated upon, and mostly what we see during the plenary session is debate on issues on reforms in critical sectors and creation of new institutions that are relevant, and then the third reading of some bills which are passed, and then waiting presidential assent. And however, aside from that, later in the day after plenary session, the House Committee on Sports is expected to distribute sporting equipment to members of the committee. And aside that, we hope that other activities are going to fall out later. And from the other paper, if we have the other paper, we'll see other activities that likely come up after the plenary session. But for now, I don't have that paper to know what the agenda is for today. But these are likely the things we're expecting to see today from the Assembly.
All right, either way, Idong, thank you so much for the updates. Well, we now head to legislative chambers where the Senate has approved President Bola Tinubu's external borrowing plan of over $21 billion for the 2025-2026 fiscal cycle, ensuring full funding for the 2025 Appropriation Act. Now, the borrowing includes $21.19 billion in foreign loans, 4 billion euros, 15 billion yuan, and $65 million grant, alongside 757 billion naira in domestic bonds. Lawmakers say the loans, mostly concessional, are tied to key infrastructure, agriculture, power, and security projects, including $3 billion for the Eastern Rail Corridor. Meanwhile, drama ensued as suspended Kogi State lawmaker Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan was denied access to the National Assembly complex to resume duties despite a court pronouncement which described her suspension as excessive and in need of review. Inside the chambers, however, lawmakers went about legislative business, setting aside Wednesday to hold a valedictory session in honor of late President Muhammadu Buhari. Our National Assembly correspondent, Sagir Ibrahim, was there.
This morning here at the National Assembly complex, as security operatives prevented Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, the Kogi State lawmaker, from entering the complex. Flanked by her supporters and journalists, the embattled lawmaker had decried what she called an unconstitutional denial of access, maintaining that her suspension had been set aside by a valid court ruling. While Natasha stood locked out, plenary resumed inside, with the Senate announcing plans to hold a special valedictory session on Wednesday to honor former President Muhammadu Buhari, who died in London on July 13 at the age of 82. The Senate President, Godswill Akpabio, also used the platform to debunk reports that 12 new states had been created under the ongoing constitution review. Senate President Akpabio had clarified that while there were proposals, none had passed the rigorous stages required for state creation. Also, the Red Chamber has approved the federal government's external borrowing plan for 2025 to 2026, which includes loans totaling $21 billion, 2.1 billion euros, and 15 billion Japanese yen, among others, for key infrastructure development projects. Additionally, lawmakers gave the green light for domestic bond issuance worth $757.9 billion to offset outstanding pension liabilities, among others. These are the details here from the National Assembly. More details coming to you in subsequent bulletins.
All right, away from that, Jagawa State Governor Umar Namadi has signed into law the Hisbah Board Bill, officially establishing the board as a statutory body. The law aims to enhance moral discipline and social order across the state. Now, speaking during the State Executive Council meeting in Dutse, Namadi called it a major milestone after months of legislative and administrative efforts. He urged Hisbah personnel to work with fairness and integrity. Now, the board will now operate with full legal backing to promote moral guidance, social justice, and community well-being. The governor also praised the establishment committee for their dedication and emphasized that the board's operations would positively shape the social fabric of Jagawa State. The Nigerian Hydrological Services Agency has warned of severe flooding in 27 states and the Federal Capital Territory between July 22nd and August 5th. NISA Director General Umar Mohammed said the alert followed the agency's latest forecast, which aligns with its 2025 annual flood outlook released in April. Mohammed said the agency envisaged flooding in more than 739 communities across 162 local government areas. He said the states on the watch list include Adamawa, Akwa Ibom, Anambra, Bauchi, Bayelsa, Benue, Borno, Cross Rivers, Delta, Ebonyi, Edo State, the FCT, Gombe, Imo, Jagawa, Kebbi, Kogi, Kwara, Lagos, Nasarawa, Niger, Ogun, Ondo, Plateau, Rivers, Sokoto, Taraba, and Yobe State. The Expatriate Business Awards recently celebrated the relationship between Nigeria and some foreign businesses. Now, the partnerships between foreign and local businesses is an essential tool in enhancing Nigeria's economic future. As the world grows ever more connected, despite the rise in nationalism in some quarters, these alliances are proven to be more than just commercial transactions, as they are catalysts for innovation, job creation, and sustainable growth. Business correspondent Chamunda Bang reports.
Foreign and local businesses are not just coexisting, they're collaborating. These relationships bring in much-needed investment, cutting-edge technology, and global best practices, while leveraging the unique insights, talents, and resilience of Nigerian entrepreneurs.
Today, we are not just recognizing individual achievements. We are celebrating the spirit of entrepreneurship that transcends borders and unites us. As you well know, Lagos is Nigeria's economic hub, the largest contributor to its GDP, and the second largest city economy in Africa behind Cairo, Egypt.
In a world more connected than ever, partnerships across borders are essential. In Nigeria, collaboration between foreign and local businesses is shaping the future of our economy, culture, and communities.
I think Nigeria, on one hand, is a very strong basis for foreign investments and foreign companies coming in, mostly because of its geographical position and definitely because of its demographics. But I think, for example, there are ways that Nigeria could be more attractive if things like visas were a bit smoother. We're a bit smoother. If things like visas were smoother, if things like were a bit more structured.
Awards like this are going to make the relationship to be smooth, because when other people are going to see things happening like this, they'll be motivated. Those will be like, can I move my business to Lagos? Like yesterday, someone called me that she wants to bring her restaurant to Abuja because she saw what was about to happen.
From agribusiness to fintech, energy to entertainment, these collaborations are unlocking new value chains and creating employment opportunities for Nigerians. Celebrating expatriates in Nigeria is not just good public relations, it's good business.
Why Teba matters? Why are we here tonight to celebrate the expatriates? We want to recognize them for their skills, and also we want to recognize them for employing Nigerians. Recognition sparks retention. When expatriate investors feel seen, they stay and they expand.
In a rapidly evolving global economy, collaboration is no longer just an option, it's a necessity. Here in Nigeria, foreign and local businesses are forging partnerships that don't just benefit boardrooms, but indeed it uplifts entire communities. In Lagos for News Central, I am Chamun.
The United Nations International Children Emergency Fund has expressed concern over the delay in the release of funds allocated for the welfare of children in the country, especially in states across the Northwest region. UNICEF, while attributing this to administrative barriers and bottlenecks, says that it results to poor child welfare. Emmanuel Bagudu, our correspondent in Kano, joins me live for further updates. Thank you so much, Emmanuel, for joining. All right, Emmanuel, speak to us. Speak to us on all of this. You know, UNICEF is faulting child-sensitive budgeting in Kano State. What is their backing?
Yes. The issue is surrounding child welfare, child nutrition, child safety, and child education. Now, that explains, their position is explaining the high rate of out-of-school children, which they say Kano State and some parts of the Northwest are contributing a huge number in that particular 18.9 million children who are currently out of school. And that largely has to do with the low budget, or rather the bottlenecks associated with spendings and releases of child-sensitive budget, which they say the Kano State government, the government of Jagawa, other states of the Northwest, who have a large number of children who are actually littered on the street due to this lack of spendings in the child-sensitive budget. They believe that these states have a responsibility of reducing the number of out-of-school children, reducing the number of children on the street, reducing the number of minority children by making sure that they implement their child-sensitive budget, which they allocated in their various budgets, because they form a very, very large population, Nigerian population index. Yeah.
All right, now, thank you so much, Emmanuel. Sadly, we have to wrap up here, but we'll definitely speak more on this. Thank you. Coming up after the break, the Gambia records first case of monkeypox infection. We'll bring you more in a moment. Stay with us. Away from Nigeria to the Gambia, the Gambia has reported an outbreak of mpox with the detection of a single confirmed case, marking the country's first known infection. Now, the Ministry of Health said the case was identified on July 18 through routine surveillance and is currently stable and responding well to treatment. Though only one case, this counts as an outbreak since mpox was not previously circulating in the country. Authorities have launched contact tracing, active case searching, and community engagement to prevent further spread. Sequencing is underway to determine the virus subtype as well. The outbreak follows rising mpox cases in neighboring West African countries such as Sierra Leone, Liberia, and Guinea, where thousands of infections have been recorded this year. Mpox remains an international health emergency transmitted through close physical contact and originating from a virus related to smallpox. The Senza Mayua murder trial continues at the Pretoria High Court, with the latest focus on the inspection in Loco, a site visit to gather further context around key events in the case. On July 4th, the court moved proceedings to Vosloorus in Gauteng's East Rand to inspect the location where the first accused, Muzi Sibia, was allegedly assaulted. Sibia and 4 other men are standing trial for the 2014 killing of Bafana goalkeeper and captain Senza Mayua. Now, joining us to unpack the legal significance of the site visit and the broader implications for the case is legal analyst Elton Hart. He's a lawyer with the Law Clinic at the University of Johannesburg. Thank you so much, Elton, for your time.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon to the viewers.
Good afternoon. Now, let's start with the inspection in Loco. We saw accused Muzi Sibia demonstrate how he was assaulted by police before making that confession. What are your thoughts?
Now, obviously, it was difficult, and it was difficult for the accused because at the time when the alleged assault and torture took place, the accused, number 2, Muzi Sibia, he was alone at that venue. And it was all these police officers, so it would look like that it's improbable that it happened. But when you look at what he actually explained and where it was, it seems that it's more truthful what the accused were saying, that they were actually tortured. And at the beginning of the trial, these guys first said they never stopped at these venues. These venues are open out in the public, but we could see that it's not as frequented areas that people will just walk past so that you can see. And the way he explained how people were actually, how the vehicles were parked, where the vehicles were parked, you could obscure the view of what's happening at the back of the vehicle. And depending on the time that he was also brought there, there would be lesser and lesser traffic. So I think, and I always had this view that I believe the accused when they say that they were tortured to actually make certain confessions and sign documents.
All right, Elton. Now let's talk about, what happened in court yesterday, where the photographer went back to the scene alone and took pictures that were not part of the inspection and also brought them to court as part of photo evidence. Also, the judge, Ratha, comments on the inspection in loco. We've seen the judge assisting in giving evidence. What does this mean for the case?
No, I think that would lead to an unfair trial if you go and gather evidence when people are not. So on whose command did he go and take photos? That would be on the state's command. So it will mean that the state has told him exactly what they need in order to sort of support the narrative or the state's case and not necessarily look at the fair trial. If additional information is sourced, if it's not part of the investigation by the investigating team, and especially if it relates to the inspection in local, all relevant parties should be there. If that's the case, then it should not be sort of half allowed. And obviously the judge, you could see that the judge is leaning more towards the state's version and sort of half giving the defense a little bit of a tough time on certain questions and the manner in which he raises the questions. And obviously that's his prerogative of how he raises his issues that he highlights as a judge, but it gives the accused an opportunity at the later stage, if an adverse finding is made pertaining to what has transpired in the inspection in loco, that they can take it on appeal.
All right, well, thank you so much for your time, Elton. Thank you for speaking on this. In business, Nigeria's agricultural sector is under severe strain as farmers grapple with climate change, insecurity, market access barriers, amongst others. Now, to help tackle these to scale, an incubator program with the support of the Dutch consulate in Nigeria facilitated a media forum focused on inclusive agribusiness and its transformative role in Nigeria's food systems. News Central's Lekon Onobanjo has more in this report.
6.5 million Nigerians are projected to face food insecurity this year due to climate change, insurgency, archaic farming method, including inadequate financing and logistical support, which have forced farmers to abandon their fields, straining production and supply chains.
The insecurity, that's a problem that we can't solve, unfortunately, but that obviously we are in discussions with those authorities.
Because the factory was very close to the rural environment, even access road was a problem. There was no power, so we had to take loans to bring power to the community. Even to get the bank to fund, because of the location, it was also a disadvantage.
To help address these issues, the Two-Skill program, in partnership with the Netherlands Embassy in Nigeria, held an inclusive agribusiness media forum to discuss ways to boost production and ensure sustainability.
Well, our mandate is not to deal with insecurity. We have to work with the agencies that are responsible for this. Two-Skill is a program that does not come in to impose anything, but to empower what the actors would like to achieve.
Well, the motivation for the Two-Skill program is actually designed towards addressing food and nutrition security in Africa. So the program has been implemented in about 15 countries, starting in 2012 to 2018, the first phase, and 2019 to 2025, the second phase. Within these agribusiness clusters, we are able to bring innovations that mitigate climate change issues, improve supply chain coordination, and improve access to market.
Accessing funds in Nigeria is one we see very difficult, but we're trying to simplify those processes. Bane for our food system is productivity. Once we can solve the challenge of productivity, I think we'll solve the problem of insecurity across board, and also food inflation.
Agri is market driven. There must be market for what you are producing to make it more economic sense to the farmers and for them to have an expected return on investments they are putting into the whole conversation.
As program coordinators launch the Food Soldier documentary, the stage is set for the strengthening of local farming communities through innovative and inclusive models.
Food Soldiers symbolizes the dedication and relentless efforts of individuals and organizations combating food insecurity and enhancing food systems. Food soldiers are the champions in the ongoing fight for food security, and their efforts are vital in fostering resilience and sustainability within our community.
By financing, creating a scalable business template, and promoting multi-stakeholder alliances, the two-scale program is poised to build a more food-secure future for Nigeria and the broader sub-Saharan region. In Lagos for News Central, Lekon Onabanjo.
Still in business, the Central Bank of Nigeria kept its key interest rate unchanged at 27.5%. Now, the decision announced by CBN Governor Olayemi Cardoso after a two-day Monetary Policy Committee meeting in Abuja marks the third consecutive time the bank has retained the rate. To further discuss this, I'm joined by Faiz Ali, Economic and Policy Analyst. Thank you so much for joining us, Faiz. Hello, Faiz. Can you unmute your mic? Hello, Faiz. All right. Now, speak to us, Faiz. Did the CBN's decision to hold MPR and all other parameters align with your expectations?
Yes, the decision was largely anticipated. Inflation started trending downward, but remains above 27%, far from the single-digit target that the CBN has. Given recent global and domestic improvements, including stable energy costs, the CBN's decision to pause while monitoring risk aligns with consensus expectations among analysts, and I think it reflects their confidence in the trajectory of their chosen monetary policy.
All right. Now, we have proponents on either side of the coin making compelling arguments. But tell us, for how much longer can growth continue to be the trade-off?
Well, growth can't remain a casualty indefinitely. While tight policy has anchored inflation expectations, high borrowing costs currently exceeding 30% in commercial lending, they stifle credit to businesses and particularly SMEs, which threaten job creation in the long run. If the current stance persists for too long, it risks undermining productive investment and slowing GDP momentum. However, loosening prematurely could also trigger a relapse in inflation. So I think the key lies in timing. If disinflation sustains through the third quarter and core inflation stabilizes, then there's room for gradual easing, probably around early 2026. What is really essential is that structural reforms, fiscal discipline, infrastructure, and energy are given much more focus so that they reduce our dependency on monetary policy as the sole stabilizer.
Okay. Faiz, while trade tensions and global risks persist, definitely, we also know that there are re-inflationary risks from the domestic scene. Which of these do you think are more challenging?
Well, I think domestic risks pose the bigger challenge. External shocks, whether that is oil price swings or trade tensions, they're significant, but they are usually episodic. In contrast, our structural drivers of inflation are persistent. Food supply bottlenecks, FX pass-through effects, insecurity. These factors fuel cost-push inflation regardless of global trends, which make it harder for monetary policy alone to deliver price stability. Therefore, I think domestic risks require urgent attention to complement monetary measures so that we achieve a more sustainable disinflation path.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time and for speaking on this, Faiz.
Thank you for having me.
Now we'll take a break. When we come back, the news continues. Do stay. In the world of sports, Super Falcons head coach Justin Madugu says Nigeria remains firmly on course to achieve their Mission X, a record-extending 10th Women's Africa Cup of Nations title. Now, speaking after Nigeria's hard 4-2-1 semi-final win over defending champion South Africa in Casablanca, Madugu praised his players' resilience and composure under pressure. Nigeria will now face hosts Morocco in Saturday's final in Rabat. The Atlas Lionesses edged Ghana 4-2 on penalties after a 1-1 draw to secure their second straight WAFCON final appearance. With momentum and belief behind them, Madugu's Super Falcons are just one win away from history.
We're still on course. We like I said, we came here with the ambition to make sure that we win the trophy, and we are still on course. So we're happy that we're still getting it right.
Bayana coach, that's the head coach, Desiree Ellis, says her team gave everything in their 2-1 semi-final loss to Nigeria, but were simply undone by missed chances. The defending champions battled hard against the Super Falcons on Tuesday in Casablanca, but could not find the final touch in key moments. Despite the disappointment, Ellis remains proud of her team's efforts and is now focused on finishing strong.
120 minutes. We didn't look like a team that had gone 120 minutes. We gave it as good as they gave it. And I think if you look at yesterday, that first couple of minutes was exchanges. Andili, I think, made a double save. But after that, we had the better chances. And we said it's going to come on one of those half chances that we had to take, and we didn't take it. And that kept them in the game as well. And then Jermaine had a chance, Hilda had a chance. Not getting the goalkeeper to make a save, and then Knox had a chance. I think it was after 70 minutes when she had that chance, and the ball goes over the line. There's no way that we're losing this game, but it keeps them in the game. And then I'll say a freakish goal because everybody...
And that's all at this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at some of our top stories. We told you that the Nigerian Senate has approved President Bola Tinubu's external borrowing plan of over $21 billion for the 2025-2026 fiscal cycle. We also told you that APC set to pick Ganduje's successor at Make or Break NEC Meeting holding on Thursday. Finally, you heard that Gambia has detected single confirmed case of monkeypox, marking country's first known infection. Remember, you may send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen. Follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, GoTV channel 23, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Thank you for watching. I'm Darshan Usman.